As we gear up for Fran Camp coming up on June in Red Bank, New Jersey, we're going to be focused on redefining your franchise sales process, re-leveraging your brand, mastering AI, and really challenging what's been traditional franchise sales. So today we're going to talk about your franchise story, why it's costing you deals. Nick, I want to get into real detail here. I don't want to get into esoteric stuff. Guys, that's coming up. Okay, this is all about I want to sell franchises. I don't want to spend a ton of money. I want my brand to, I don't want to be dependent on brokers. I don't want to spend a ton of money. I want to organically attract the best franchisees possible, align them with my brand. I want to take advantage of a new generation of franchise sales where AI is disrupting. What do I have to do?
I mean, you just unloaded a ton, and now you left. I mean, that seems like a lot. Are you coming back? Is it just me?
No, I'm here. I had to fix something. Come on,
Right.
Nick. Let's.
Right.
So.
Listen, I have the starting point for this one, and you and I don't script these things out. So what I did is used my buddy ChatGPT. I took our database of we're at 3,000 now franchisees that we've asked about the buyer journey to get the data. And the question that I put in there, I said, analyze my data. And I'm gonna read these to you because I said the question that I put was, can you give me the top 10 friction points that it's seen? And this is through real human beings that have bought a franchise. So why don't I go through each of them and then you ask questions or give insight? How's that?
Okay. And Nick, before we go to that,
Yeah.
just for everyone who's watching, guys, it really is an amazing event.
Frank Camp.
And yeah, so Frank Camp is coming up June 1 to 3, Red Bank, New Jersey, amazing venue. But more importantly, we're focused on the Frank Camp playbook, which is growth strategy. It's about your brand story. And it's really the ecosystem for growing franchise sales as we go forward. AI, no AI, brokers or not. But Nick, go ahead. Let's go back into your
Number one, and this is the friction points that are created in the franchise buying process, which in turn will help you understand how your story is costing you deals. So it's ultimately the same thing. So number one is unclear financial reality. Buyers are saying, I need more clarity on financials. What does this actually make? What's included? What's really happening? Item 19 exists, but it's not being translated into a real world story. Friction, uncertainty equals hesitation equals stalled deals. The fix, turn financials into here's $1 million story, here's a $2 million story, here's what the owner actually takes home. So number one, as it extracted through the 3,000 franchisee, friction point number one that is loud and clear is unclear financial reality. Comments?
Yeah, so when we talk about unclear financial reality, I think there's two things to look at. Number one, the numbers, the objective numbers you're reporting in item 19. They are what they are. And there's limitations to what their story can tell or doesn't tell. I think the more important financial reality that most brands are missing the boat on and the opportunity in their franchise sales process is a candid assessment of what their brand should mean to a franchisee economically, right? Are you quitting your job and replacing it? Are you building legacy? Is this supplemental? What does this do for your life? And I feel like, just promoting AUVs of X dollars. Okay, so now you're coaching your prospective franchisee that they should value gross sales. But what does that mean? But it's not answering the ultimate questions.
Number two, vague definition of support. Buyers expect support, but don't understand what it really means. Friction, mismatch between expectation and reality. What they're thinking, am I buying a system or just a brand name? The fix, break support into pre-opening, opening, ongoing, what you do not do. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you've always raised a good point that stuck with me about, especially when you talk about franchise sales websites, you're talking about answering how you help me succeed, right? And so everyone has the generic, we train and support, but it's not no one, it's not saying anything.
Well, and again, this is extracting from real
No,
franchisees.
I mean, Nick, I love that
Yeah,
question, and it's always stuck with me when you're evaluating a brand where I'm like, wow, because as you talked to them about, well, how do you help them succeed? That is so fertile content that everyone's overlooking.
That's right. Number 3, timeline. Buyers don't know how long to open, when revenue starts, when they stop losing money. The friction is fear of the unknown timeline. The fix show month by month ramp, what happens in the first 90 days, real opening delays, and be honest. Like that, again, like these are extracting what the franchisees are saying their issues are. Thoughts on that?
No, I mean, that's right on point, right? It's
Number 4, too much sales language, not enough reality. Everything sounds polished, best in class, industry leading, turnkey system. The friction is buyers don't trust what feels like marketing. The fix is add what's hard, where people struggle, who fails, and why.
I mean, I think this is a challenge not only for franchisors, but for every business, right? Like in an age of AI, which is such a stupid term. And of course I used it, but what's the human side of the brand for you on B2C at the consumer level to the franchisee level? And so for them at, them being your consumer and buying your business opportunity, how does that all, relate?
Well, that's why validation and actually speaking to franchisees ends up being such a critical part of the process. And same on how a customer decides whether they're going to go buy a product or not. They look at reviews. Like the reality is we don't buy from brands, we buy from people, but every brand thinks you sell a brand. And so that's what it's saying. It's like we're not being honest in here. And if it feels too much like marketing, it's hard to trust. Now what's interesting, these aren't franchise buyers, these are franchise buyers, meaning they've actually bought. These are franchisees. And so it's interesting that they're having these opinions in retrospect when they look backwards on the business. Number 5 is inconsistent.
Nick, going back to that point, when we're speaking, you're talking about whatever initiatives or you're working with certain clients, 9 out of 10 times I hear you talk about franchisee celebrations, openings, and other things, right? I mean, that's like 90% of what I see you focus on.
Yeah, but nobody does it. Number 5, inconsistent messaging across the process. Website says one thing, broker says another, franchisee says something slightly different. The friction, it creates doubt. What's actually true? The fix is align your website, your broker narrative, and your validation talking points.
And I think that's for every business too. That's a function and we're going through that for our own firm right now. Like I'm really reevaluating, not in a marketing way, but what is our mission? Who do we serve? How do we help our clients transform and how do we align that messaging? And most franchise brands, they end up fractured. They're, one broker group is saying certain thing, their media is saying another, and it gets very fractured.
Number 6, weak validation structure. Buyers talk to franchisees, but it's unstructured, it's inconsistent, it's sometimes overly positive or random. The friction is buyers don't know what to believe. The fix is engineer validation with your top performers, your mid performers, your new operators, and your tough story.
I wouldn't say engineer though. Like I'd say you need to be genuine. And if you have operational problems and validation problems, you don't have a sales problem. You have a operations issue.
Number 7 is fear around capital deployment. This is bigger than most franchisors realize. Buyers are thinking, I'm writing $500,000, $1 million check. Is this real? What if I'm wrong? The friction is emotion plus financial risk spike at once. The FISC is de-risked, show downside scenarios, show break-even realities, normalize fear in the process.
Well, I mean, you have limitations with item 19, but to your earlier point, if you show the roadmap and pathway, that differentiates your brand. And if it's genuine, again, one of your other focal points, and guys, it's not me about mentioning Nick, but because I have many criticisms, but I love your, like when you really force or work with clients on, are you charging, are you estimating enough for the initial marketing, the grand opening marketing? And not only that, do you have the game plan for the next 12 months for that franchisee? So maybe you can't show them where their break even is legally, but you could show them what the next 12 months is going to look like. And how you're going to deploy their marketing spend.
Well, if you use your item 19 the right way, you're giving them enough data so they can build the right pro forma, right?
Nick, this brings up a bigger question, which is, franchisors have robust item 19 compliant. And then what happens with pro formers? I'm not a fan of pro formers in the franchise sales process.
I don't think it's a good thing in the sales process, but I think it's good for franchisees to build a business plan. And so they need to understand, like, what, like, we'll take rent as an example plus loan. We'll just say loan, debt and rent. They know, okay, I got to get to $20,000 a month. And they know, like, smart franchisors have some idea on what customer acquisition cost is. You can at least start engineering a business strategy for how am I going to get to the break even on the 20,000 so I don't feel stressed or overwhelmed on this, so I don't have to dip too much into my operating capital. I'm more so saying, like, if item 19s are loosey-goosey or highlighting gross sales more than anything, you create a blind spot for the franchisee on expectations and realities, which then forces their hand to get stressed and demotivated by your business, which creates misaligned expectations, which turns into poor validation. Like, I'm just saying, like, use your item 19. I think so many franchisors hide information. They try to celebrate only the good. But the complete package is how you actually set up franchisees to win. And then you qualify people who can scale. So even if it underperforms the average, they're still motivated on the total package, that they know if they get 3 units open, the odds of them building wealth for them and their family is only going to increase.
Agreed.
Okay. Number 8, no clear YU versus competitors. Buyers are looking at 5 to 10 brands. Most franchisors don't clearly position against alternatives, assume they stand out. The friction is buyer confusion equals delayed decision. What you need to fix is why us versus them, where we win, where we don't. And I know there's obviously legal challenges on that, on comparisons, but
yeah, but even bigger, and I think this is going to be a big factor at FranCamp. If for the franchise brands that focus on this, there's real AI SEO opportunity here to gain traction against your competition through AI by focusing on how AI evaluates categories, gives advice, and what you're focusing on here, Nick, I think is one of the critical points we're going to focus on, right? If you define categories, you define what your space is and how you relate to others, at least right now in the next 12 months, that's going to give you an advantage in visibility.
Number 9, lack of personalization in the process. Process feels linear, scripted, same for everyone. Friction, buyer doesn't feel understood. The fix is adapt based on first time versus multi-unit, investor versus operator, speed of decision making.
I mean, the whole industry is selling something uniform. The most disappointing thing for me is, for certain clients, it's a chicken and the egg scenario. You need to build a validating base of franchisees, and that's how you accelerate sales. Everyone looks for these magic seeds and they join these whatever or sign up with these whatever companies and think it's going to, and then all the broker groups and then getting all the certifications. And then everything looks the same. Like, here's my website, buy a franchise. Here's the royalty rate. Here's the estimated startup expense. And here's the grid, the 7-step pathway to becoming a franchisee. And everyone missed out on opportunity.
Number 10, no bridge between discovery and decision. The big gap between this looks interesting and I'm ready to invest $500,000 is that most brands don't nurture properly. The friction is buyers stall out in the middle. The fix is build educational content, webinars, ongoing touch points, and real stories over time.
So, I mean, isn't the real answer, like, the one key point is understand your brand and be extremely genuine about it on the plus and negative? And that in and of itself sets you apart from everyone?
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but the problem is we have fake sales goals that are pulled out of the sky and fake sales pressures to go sell more franchises. I did a podcast with Sport Clips earlier today, and he said what's kept him in this industry so long is that he loves when he can help a franchisee become successful. He didn't say what I love most about being in this industry is when I sell another franchise. He said when a franchisee becomes successful, which in today's world, that mindset doesn't exist. We're more about like the FSOs and fast broker sales. Like we celebrate the sale more than we celebrate the journey of the franchisee.
Well, I mean, and Nick, you represent brands where, say, like Lane's Chicken, they're focused on the franchisee and the success, and what happens is the sales, right? That's just a byproduct.
Says the big pattern, every friction point comes down to one thing. Lack of clarity creates fear. Fear slows or kills deals. So when we're talking about your franchise stories costing you deals, lack of clarity story creates fear. Fear slows or kills deals. It's not a lack of leads. It's not a lack of interest. It's not even a lack of capital. So the opportunity, this is where you win. If franchisors simply clarify financial reality, define your support, engineer validation, engineer, meaning let's maybe change the word engineer, but give the ability to see the top, the middle, and the bottom, align messaging and address fear directly, they will outperform 90% of the market.
If I could just add one layer there, how can franchisors build a better filter so they're attracting those better fit franchisees?
I hate this question.
Oh, I like that. I like it a lot. Nick, I double this question with double emphasis. Yeah. Why? Why do you hate it?
Because that's what I preach.
Okay.
And then the franchisor goes, yeah, but I want 100 leads this month.
No, I mean,
you can't win it. Like exactly what you just said is the definite. We're in the business of building successful franchisees versus we're in the business of lead generation and selling franchises.
It's interesting. If I look at data for our law firm over the years, our lead, when I say lead, it's mostly referrals and community, right? Referrals are one thing, but say leads, if I showed you the trajectory of just cold contacts coming into our firm, they've gone on a trajectory down while the growth of our firm has gone up. And I would have never imagined that to be the case. But especially for the brands though, like I don't want to waste time with just a broad array of leads. I'd rather hone in and I think if you focus on honing in on those better fit franchisees, you're actually going to increase your leads anyway. And you're going to force yourself to really differentiate your brand, because if you're honing in on those good fit, it forces you to say what we are and what we're not versus that we're everything.
The challenge again, like, and here's the truth, and we're going to have plenty of salespeople at Frank Camp. If we pulled them into the corner and said, do you have pressure from, like, does your leadership team that's above you say, where are the leads every single week? Like, our leads seem low, even though like we can extract information and say that the work that you do today, May 1st, is not going to show its face until November of this year. We can give you all the data that points to this. The executive leadership still says, well, where are my leads? Where are my leads? Where are my leads? And so the sales teams are not wrong by feeling this really weird pressure. But it's what you just said is exactly how we grow our business. I don't have the time to talk with 100 people to close a deal. I have the time to talk to like 5 brands, give them real information, try to facilitate them and nurture them through our pipeline. And if it's a match for them to work with Mainland or 1851, then we do it. But for whatever reason, in like everything but franchising, we have to like show that we're busy. Like busy almost wins back to executives. They want to hear we have leads. But if you really zoom out of franchising, there's not that many people that buy franchises. Like you really break it down. Let's say there's 4,000 brands. Let's say there's 10 buyers per brand. That's 40,000 people that could buy a franchise this year. And I actually think that number is way too high. 40,000 Now we break it down by state. There's 50 states. So now we're less than 1,000 human beings in the state that are going to buy a franchise. And now we cross-apply those 4,000 franchises back. Not all of the franchises are going to be able to sell a deal in the state. And so the math is already there, but we pretend like someone that has $3 and really wants a job wants to buy a franchise. They don't. They can't afford it. They're not going to be successful for all the reasons we just said. Your story is costing you deals, and here's the friction points. But it's like, that's why I hate that question, because I agree with it 100%. It just will never happen in franchising.
Well, and I think though, I think that focus really disciplines the messaging. So Nick, at FranCamp, we have the FranCamp playbook. We're focused, the June conference here in Red Bank focused on, I mean, we use the term AI, but really AI is just a newer or shinier version of some older vehicles, right? Where it's putting together information. Where do you see the opportunity right now?
I mean, that's a pretty big question. Opportunity to go in any direction, but
If you're gonna,
look,
let me fix it. Opportunity for brands that may have, whether they know it or not, missed the boat on organic SEO in the past, became dependent on other channels, and does AI give them a new opportunity?
It does and it doesn't, and here's why. And I have my coffee and analytics coming up next month, and I just wrote about this, which is why like the timing of this call was perfect. I wrote in there, like we do these franchise assessments. They're 100+ pages. I would say all of the material in there is quite good, and it actually creates a really strong playbook for how a franchisor can win. The reality is they look at those assessments 9 out of 10 times and they say, this is just too much. Google SEO is just too much, which is where there were companies that took the outsourcing. But the reality is franchising is too much. It takes a lot of work. And so the last line that I wrote in my note that I send out was, if you want to make millions, it takes millions of hours. And what I'm saying is like franchising and franchise growth takes a lot of work. And so when we're talking about FranCamp and we're going to break down the 25 headlines that you need to have content for, franchisors are going to look at that and say, well, who's creating this for me? And that's going to be the biggest challenge in resetting or having a shot to win in the AI world, unless you're willing to invest in content creation, and that's either yourself through time or using a partner, then you're going to be left behind again, because this is another opportunity to reset your story and make sure it's done. And frankly, if you watch back the first part of what we just talked about, there's the 10 first stories that you need. You need to answer each of the 10 things we just went through.
You know, and so we have differing views on this, but it comes down to effort and grit and how much time and effort you're going to put in. But
wait, what's the different view?
The different view is, I think this is very leverageable, right? For a brand right now, I mean, I even get excited for our own business, right? And I feel like we're in a dominant position. I'm facing a challenge, and there's just a ton of opportunity out there, right? So for everyone who's going to be attending FranCamp, where's the focus going to be? To Nick's point, like those 10 discussion points of, you know, what does the training look like? What does the roadmap for the next 6 months look like? Who are my good fit franchisees? What's our economic promise? How do we fit in the franchise world? What category do we fall in? Who are we not good for? How do we differentiate from other brands? That becomes important narrative that I think, first of all, at FranCamp, it's playbook focused. So we're going to have a great time, but it's also going to be focused on answering those questions. And second, you start deploying that information, it's going to move the needle when people are searching for an opportunity on AI, or asking a question about your brand, or asking a question about your competition because you created some thoughtful content about why you're different, or maybe the better opportunity for a certain type of person.
The brands that come to FranCamp, very, very candidly, are going to walk away with tools that are going to accelerate their brand story within an AI search world. That's part of what we're giving. That's our guarantee. And it costs nothing. Like, this is the cheapest way to get ahead. So I'm excited for the brands that are coming. And frankly, and still very clearly, it's not like we have robots doing our speaking sessions, we're using real success stories so that we can show you that humans don't go away in storytelling. AI just amplifies those stories to the right people in the right markets.
Yeah, there's it'll be interesting. It's gonna be a fun friend camp.
That's my favorite
I
thing to say, by the way. Like you
what-
pause and you're
yeah,
like,
well, because you know why? I'm thinking for myself. Like, so today, one of the first things I did were evaluating our firm messaging, who our perfect fit clients are, how we're serving them, how we've transformed or helped them or been a part of their journey. Like, there's just like a lot to figure out. And I think it's a good opportunity. So I think you're looking at me like I'm a little unhinged right now. But
you're always unhinged.
yeah.
That's the beauty of it. But
Yeah, no, I
yin and
think.
yang. You and I can figure this thing out. And if anybody wants to listen to us and not think we're crazy people, then we can help others too.
Yeah, guys, if you're listening, come to Frank Camp. Be a really good time. Hopefully, you got value out of today. Nick,
And
you're going to end it. Go ahead.
what? And this year at Frank Camp, we are putting tents in Charles's parking lot so that we can all act like campers. So if you didn't know that, make sure you bring your sleeping bags.
Guys, have a great afternoon.